Florida Gators fall camp opened a week ago. Here's how it's going. We're going to talk about it a little bit. Only here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. Happy Tuesday. I'm Brandon Olson. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Written work, video work, Whole 9 Sports, and GiantsCountryFSI.com. Before even starting today, just going to ask you to like, comment, subscribe, leave a review. Like I mentioned, like Apple Podcasts, the mean people leave reviews, but I can see the numbers going up, so I know people like it. So give a good one here. I'm just gonna throw that one out there. But we're here to talk about fall camp now. We're gonna break down to offense, then defense, and then just team-based topics, we'll say. Starting off with offense, this staff is really, really pushing execution. We know discipline, we know that's a thing, but they are really, really pushing execution, whether it's Billy Napier came out on the Friday press conference and he was like, look, first practice wasn't great. Second one, we practiced with the pace and efficiency that we require. And so that's something where they're really pushing that execution, that pace, that efficiency, that consistency. And they're really doing for Jabbar Jaluk, the Florida Gators running back coach. He has been consistently making running backs redo drills if they're not doing it to the speed that he wants. I believe it was Naquan Wright was doing a drill with the bags and he had to redo it like 3 times because Jaluk was just like, no, do it again. Like, do it the way that I want you to do it. And while a lot of people could be like, that's stickler, you're picking on a little thing. How you practice will determine how you play. So I am fully on board with if you want to be like, hey, get to it, then do it. And I'm fine with it. I'm going to buy into this coaching staff that has, succeeded pretty much everywhere they've been for the past 6 years. They've been fantastic everywhere they've gone. So I'm going to put my faith into them and I'm going to trust them. It's not surprising that the Florida Gators coaching staff has also seemingly put an emphasis on running backs performing in pass protection, because we spoke about this earlier in the offseason when Billy Napier got hired and just everybody started coming over. Billy Napier and this offense are going to ask running backs to be in pass protection. It's not. And last season, Dameon Pierce was phenomenal at it. I will stand by my statement that Dameon Pierce is the best pass protecting running back, not only in the NFL draft last year or this year, but in college football last year. So I will stand by that. Naquan Wright was also very good. Montrell Johnson was pretty dang good, but we got like 6 backs in the backfield that are going to play at certain points in the season. So they've all got to be up to snuff, and being pretty good simply ain't good enough if you're asking me. That's where I stand with it. So I am ecstatic that this coaching staff is putting emphasis on running backs and pass protection. And if you know me and if you haven't caught on yet, that is one of my favorite things about watching running back play is if you can perform in pass protection. So awesome. Love it. The tight end room, everything I've seen from them in terms of passing drills and pass catching drills, they seem to be working well with the quarterback group. Griffin Mcdowell, who's changed positions a couple of times. By the way, also, my Lord, I don't know if anybody here saw it, but Griffin McDowell posted a picture, I believe it was Sunday, of him, his Gator pictures official. Oh my Lord, he went through a complete transformation in the face and the arms. It is awesome to see someone putting in that work and getting it and seeing it pay off. And we'll see if he finds his way onto the field. Because again, we could talk about how many tight ends that this team has. They're going to play at least 12 personnel quite a bit. We're probably going to see 13 personnel a bit, and there's going to be rotating people. So maybe Griffin McDowell finds his way there. Maybe he's just a special teamer again this year. But whatever it is, Florida's tight ends are impressing, we'll say, so far. Ricky Pearsall, the Arizona State transfer that came over to the Florida Gators earlier this offseason, has been turning heads reportedly, and I've got to say, of all the things that I've spoken about and of all the things that I will speak about, that is probably the least surprising statement that I've ever seen, that I've ever heard, read, said, whatever it is. That is probably the least surprising thing ever. But it is still a relief because we've seen people transfer with these high expectations, whether to or from Florida or any other university, um, and not exceed those expectations, not reach those expectations. And he hasn't yet, by the way. I want to make that very clear. I'm not penciling him in as, whoo, giving that Biletnikoff right now. No, but I will say that Ricky Pearsall, turning heads, whether it's his crisp route running that people, I guess if you didn't watch enough film, you weren't expecting. Because if you watched his film, you could see that he is a crisp route runner. So he's a very fluid mover, whether it's going up and making jump ball catches, whatever it might be. It's great to see that he is turning heads and he is impressing bystanders. Finally, for offense, last thing we're going to talk about really, because obviously we know a lot of these drills are one-on-ones, so it's even hard for me to say like, oh, like quarterbacks are doing this. Yeah, most of them are doing well. Most of them are throwing to open receivers a lot of times. It's routes on air. But Xavier Henderson is someone that has reportedly looked like a much more crisp route runner, a much more fluid mover, which is big because if you listen to Getting Swamped this past weekend when I was on with David Soderquist, Xavier Henderson, he's had high expectations, but he's kind of a straight line runner. He's not shifty. He's not a super fluid athlete. He's kind of a straight line runner. So for him, once he arrived on campus, there were astronomical expectations surrounding him. He has not lived up to them or even come close to them, but hopefully with Coach Kerry Colbert, he can hit that potential and hit those expectations because that's something that we need to see from not just Xavier Henderson, but from this wide receiver room. Justin Shorter has high expectations on him. He's a little limited as a route runner. I think here we're in a safe space on Locked On Gators, and I think we're in an open and honest space on Locked On Gators where we could say Justin Shorter is great as an X receiver. He's great for these jump balls and contested catches and tight window throws and all that stuff. But he's limited into how great he can be, primarily because of his lack of technique as a route runner, lack of that fluidity that you kind of not need to be great, but you'd like to see to be great. So someone needs to step up, whether it's Ricky Pearsall, Xavier Henderson. I'm honestly open to whoever it is that steps up. If Trent Whittemore goes, you know what, I'm going to be wide receiver one, go do it, big dog, and just I want to see you be successful because I think that's good for the Florida Gators. But we're about to take a look at the defensive side of the ball and some big takeaways from that, including the freshman players, which is going to be interesting. But first, a quick word from LinkedIn, because as the sun comes out and small businesses are back in business, LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier for you to grow your team. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the people that you want to interview faster and for free. If you've never used LinkedIn Jobs before, you dumb, use it. I highly recommend it. That's how I got my last job before lockdown, which I did love, but I like this one more. With simple tools like screening questions, it makes it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates that you want to talk to faster. And did you know that every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? I did it incessantly when I was looking for a job. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks again, making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. Now we're going to take a look at the defensive side of the ball here. And this one's a little harder to really tell things because you're not seeing a ton. There's only 14 minutes of practice time every practice that media is actually able to see. So you're not really able to see a ton in coverage. You're not like you can see some things, but you're not really able to see a ton. You're not able to see most of the important stuff. So what we do is we take we take what we can see and we try to translate that to actual game. One of the things that people look at is who's starting, who's running with the ones, is what we'll call it. And that's been Kamari Wilson and Devon Moore, which has been interesting. At least they're playing time in the limited media window. And here's the thing before I even talk about anything else, because I feel like this coaching staff is going to be petty about certain things. It wouldn't shock me if, Kamari Wilson and Devon Moore aren't the starters and this coaching staff's just like, hey, guess what? We're just going to do it so media reports it, and they're not actually going to start. I don't think that's a likely, but I feel like this coaching staff is petty, so it might be. And by the way, petty is good. I want to make that very clear. But I think it's more likely that Kamari Wilson was a highly, highly, highly touted safety coming out of IMG Academy. Devon Moore is a highly ranked DB who, depending on where you look, people had him listed and translated over to a safety. Some people had him listed and translated over to corner. Some had him listed as a corner, but translating the safety, all that stuff. Some safety to corner, blah, 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 blah. So I think what's more likely is Florida's coaching staff going, obviously, specifically Corey Raymond and Patrick Toney going, we've got Kamari Wilson and Devon Moore as these incredibly high-ranked players in the defensive backfield. We've got a young defensive back room that's full of unproven players. I think when you look at the corner room, the proven players that you have available right now, the list is Jason Marshall Jr. and Avery Helm. And behind them, there's nobody really proven that's ready to go at outside corner. Jaden Hill is not participating right now. Jalen Kimber is coming over from Georgia, but he had an injury last season, and this is his first year in Gainesville. And so corner is kind of an open spot, I'll say. So maybe Devon Moore finds his way there. So I think it's one of those things where you've got a lot of unproven players, and so you're going to figure things out. Or that's at corner. At corner, I think it's that you've got a lot of unproven players, so figure out who you want to play. Because, if Devon Moore outperforms the other corners, maybe he's corner 3, maybe he's corner 2. I don't know what it might be. But I think it's more likely as that than anything else. I think also when you look at Kamari Wilson, it's a little different because you go the depth is unproven. You got Rashad Torrance II, who I will continue to say is one of the best safeties in college football, if not the best safety in college football. You've got Trey Dean III, who is slept on a bit, but I think in his upcoming role, or at least what I think will be his upcoming role with this Florida Gators defense, I think he's going to excel. I think a lot of people are kind of coming around on him as a legitimate playmaker in this secondary and someone to be very excited for and very happy for. So there's won't. So there's that. Sorry, I got a message real quick that I was like ready to close, and I'm just gonna So there's that. But I think Kamari Wilson is like, is he gonna be safety 3? You've got Donovan McMillan, who by the way, people are asking if he's gonna play linebacker. I don't think that's gonna happen. Maybe a money backer role, maybe box safety, but I don't think he's gonna make the move to linebacker. That just doesn't make sense. So you got Kamari Wilson, you've got Donovan McMillan, you've got Corey Collier, you've got a few safeties back there that it's like, well, who's it gonna be that steps up and plays? Because Patrick Toney is going to run 3 safety sets. It's going to happen. So it's who's going to step up and do it. And I think that's something that you really got to focus on. This defense, linebackers have been doing a lot of drills where their focus is identifying where the run is going and making the proper read and assessment and getting there. Because, first of all, Florida sucked at it last year. If we're going to be honest, Florida sucked at it last year. That's just how it is. And second of all, this defense, I've said it before, and I've been saying it for months now since Princely Uman-Mileen said it on the show. This defense is much more focused on playing run defense as opposed to just pass defense, just defending the pass, just rushing the passer. I believe that was the number one thing that Princely said was the biggest difference between the 2021 coaching staff defensively and the 2022 coaching staff defensively is we are much more focused on defending the run first and then worrying about everything else. If they're not running, then drop back, but whatever. So I think that's something where the linebackers really needed help with because, yes, the scheme sucked and the scheme wasn't to focus on playing run defense. But the Florida Gators linebackers just did not play well there. And I realize most of those linebackers that played significant snaps are gone. And Jeremiah Moon, Mahmoud Diabate, they're gone. So there's that. Tyron Hopper is with Missouri now. But it's still something where Ventrell Miller's on his 6th year in Gainesville. Like Amari Burney's on his 5th year in Gainesville. Like these guys for years were not coached to properly play the run. So I think that's something where it's great to see them put that emphasis on it. Defensive line, there's nothing really impactful to take away. I know I've seen them do a bunch of drills against like dummies, which is it's might as well be me out there at that point. So I think that defense is really hard to evaluate during this time, but you gotta kind of just take note of what they're focusing on, who is playing more frequently. It's gonna be interesting. I think the Kamari Wilson, Devon Moore running with the ones right now is very intriguing because I don't think Kamari Wilson is going to be a starter. I don't think that happens with Trey Dean and Rashad Torrance II there. I think you've got two proven guys where it's like, well, they're going to do their job. And Devon Moore, I also don't think will be a starter. I will stick by my point where I think the starting outside corners on September 3rd are going to be Jason Marshall Jr. and Avery Helm. But it's interesting to see if Devon Moore is going to rotate in with either of them or if he's going to play. A star role might be eyed for him. Kamari Wilson maybe could even play a star role too. I think that position should be open, if we're being honest. I think that should be an open competition right now. I think a lot of positions are, but I think star is one of those where it's like, last year wasn't great. Let's get mixy with it there. So maybe there's that. But we're about to take a look at the injuries and how that can impact this team. But first, a quick word from our sponsors. With the early injuries that have been happening with Florida Gators, either from the spring or now. Tight end room got decimated by injuries. Nick Elksnis dealt with an injury in the spring. Jonathan Odom got injured in the spring, which I don't believe he's cleared for contact yet, but he's been at practice and he was working out with his arm out of the sling, if I'm not mistaken. He was running routes in yesterday's practice. So Jonathan Odom seems to be back on the up and up after getting surgery on a torn labrum this spring. Nick Elksnis was, injured this spring, but he's back doing everything. Hayden Hansen missed Sunday's practice, if I'm not mistaken, but he was there yesterday participating fully, so maybe he just had something else where he couldn't be at practice for whatever reason on Sunday. I'm not going to look into it super far. Maybe I'll ask him about it, but yeah, I'm not going to harp on it at all. I don't think there's a need to do that. But then looking at Jaden Hill, cornerback, not cleared yet from whatever injury he has. I know that speculation right now is just that it's still him rehabbing that ACL from last year. Billy Napier said he's out for a bit. I believe the exact quote was he's out for the foreseeable future. So Jaden Hill, at this point, if you're still being listed as out for the foreseeable future, I think that puts your availability for September 3rd in some serious doubt. Which even if he can play September 3rd, even if he's cleared by September 3rd, will he be in playing shape and will he be ready to go? I don't think so. At this point, that's like something that's very concerning for me with Jaden Hill. Not going to lie to you there. Richard Garage, offensive tackle, had a lower body injury, but should be back soon. Hopefully this week we'll see him back. Safety Dakota Mitchell didn't participate in the first 3 practices, but returned to practice on Sunday. Trey Smack had a non-contact jersey on for the first 3 practices, but he was back in a normal jersey on Sunday. But the injury that I wanted to talk about more than anything else, which is not an injury that happened in fall camp, but happened before fall camp, and we're kind of seeing it's still being worked through, what is Naquan Wright. He's been participating while recovering from an ankle injury, so I'd imagine he's going to be okay, and he'll be good for September 3rd. But I'd also imagine it's like, well, we need you to kind of work and learn this offense and kind of grow with it with the rest of this team as well. So you're going to be working, but I'd imagine it's a rather light workload. Again, when we're watching, when we get these, the media availability, when media availability is there and we can get these notes and we can get everything, there's not much to really see. Like they go out for pass routes, they're running routes, they're doing these things, but we're not seeing, a scrimmage or anything like that. So we don't know fully how much he's allowed to participate. It's also only 14 minutes, which is a fraction of the practice time. So you don't really get to see a ton of details. But yeah, I'd imagine Naquan Wright right now is just being given a light workload, even when practice is fully underway and closed to media. But I'm interested to see. Like, I wish we could see right now what a full practice looks like and see, who's taking the most snaps and who's taking the most reps at running back one, who's doing what in what situation, on the goal line, who is it? When you're backed up into your own end zone, who is it that's taking over most of the snaps? And I'm just curious to see, is Naquan going in motion from the slot, into the slot, out of the slot, whatever it might be? Is anybody doing that? I want to know the intricacies and the nerdiest things about this offense and about this football team. But for now, we don't know them. But again, it's only been a week of fall camp, so things could open up. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll be back tomorrow to talk more about your Florida Gators. And we're talking about recruiting with John Garcia from Sports Illustrated. So make sure you're here for that one. Now make your second listen, Locked On SEC, hosted by Chris Cordy of Sports 790, who, by the way, had more listens than Adam Schefter last week. So there's that. Take that, Shefty. Like I've been saying, get the best coverage on the best conference with the best university involved, the University of Florida, with Locked On SEC. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olson. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports and GiantsCountryFSI.com. And I'll see you all tomorrow.